Kathy DeWitt, and I'm here with Mike Hunter to talk about the public safety broadband legislation. Mike is the president and CEO of RCC Consultants, a leader in wireless broadband consulting. Mike, to get things started, why don't you give us a summary of the legislation?
All right, so the legislation is the basis of fulfillment of a dream for many that real-time video, high-speed data access, and other graphical applications, as well as usual public safety applications, will be accessible nationwide. It's the first time there's been a common block of spectrum with a common technology that follows a global standard applied to public safety communications.
Tell me about the national network that this legislation puts into motion.
The legislation is directed at a strong national network run by the federal government. The network will be planned and deployed under federal supervision. The states and the local governments have an opportunity to define the service that will be provided in their state and in their localities, and they will be the ultimate users of the network and will need to be guided carefully in the early stages if this network will be a success.
How can RCC help the states take advantage of this legislation?
RCC can assist the states in achieving their goals and objectives in provision of service at the local level, and to coordinate the activities of the local and regional planning groups that have been underway through the UASI and other similar interoperability programs.
What is RCC's role in helping guide the states through this legislation?
Be in assisting in the development of requirements and specifications for particularly states as to what will be their needs and their uses for the broadband network, and to bring together a set of requirements that dovetail with the requirements that will be established at the federal level. Taking a set of basic requirements and what the technology can support, and defining in advance what the potential uses are, what the level of usage would be, what's the reliability required of the network, what are the coverage parameters that would be followed in building and vehicle and in street types of coverage, what will be the baseline definition of the network on a state basis. So assisting in developing these key areas will be a role that RCC will play in helping to guide the states and augment their efforts they have under the interoperable communications programs.
Mike, tell me why RCC is the right consultant to help the states protect their interests as they plan for the national broadband network.
RCC has worked on virtually every communication technology that's available in state and local and critical infrastructure industries. Our experience is deep and it's long, from the inception of the standards through the maturing of the standards, through network deployment, network replacements. We have a high success rate and projects that go in right the first time, and a very low redo rate, which is very important to those that are risking taxpayer money in particular in a very public venue and where mistakes are punished in the press.
Tell me why RCC is the right consultant to help the states.
Our state and local practices handle some of the very largest and most complicated projects in the United States, as well as some overseas that were national projects. Our ability to build a national data network early in our careers has given us an insight into the national broadband network, of what it takes to do a national network, how complicated that is, and how different the U.S. is from coast to coast.
Mike, you feel so strongly about the importance of the broadband technology that you've created a specific group focused just on broadband consulting. Tell me a little bit more about RCC's Broadband Consulting Group.
Broadband network is the convergence of a number of technologies that RCC is already expert in, and these are IP networking, radio frequency engineering, public safety, software applications, and in this network, these things now come together in one group, and we found that a multidisciplinary approach to these projects will be necessary, whereas these services might have been bifurcated in the past for providing mainly radio engineering services or mainly applications, specifications, and procurements. Now, all of these three main areas of networking, radio engineering, and applications will be necessary on the same project. So we've decided to organize a group, the Broadband Working Group, that will develop the processes that we'll be following on all of the needs assessments on the system design work, and who will bring together the necessary expertise in one group, which we believe will be unique in the industry. Much smaller firms will not have the three main disciplines available to them. So we have this organized. We have a process development group underway, and this will help give us a path forward into the broadband networking consulting.
Has RCC already worked on any broadband projects?
We already have some track record in the broadband area and working with some of the early adopters who were funded under the BTOP program. From the Commerce Department, we're working with some states on early definition of their requirements. And so we have a step ahead of many firms that are now in the catch-up mode in developing a product and the proper team to address this market. The services we provide should be useful to the governments in setting a long-term vision of where they want their public safety data communications needs to be fulfilled in the coming years.
What involvement has RCC had in standard setting organizations related to broadband?
We served in a number of the standards definition groups, as well as through organizations such as the National Public Safety Telecommunication Council, who've been very active and vocal in developing the requirements and developing the path that would lead forward to funding and legislation. Participation in NIPSTIC, which is the National Public Safety Telecommunication Council. We've had input into the process, and we've funded our employees to be participants in these largely voluntary committees. We're active participants in the trials that are underway through NTIA, and have followed this very closely and are very supportive of the efforts that have gone into this. So we're proud to have been a part of this. There are many participants and some very good friends in Congress who took this and moved it forward, and for which we're very grateful.
Mike, thank you for taking the time to tell me more about the new broadband legislation and how RCC is well positioned to help guide the states to creating the solution that best fits their needs. For more information about RCC consultants, please visit RCC on the web at www.rcc.com.